Hey again, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Speaking of Sundara, where I talk about my fantasy RPG setting, Sundara: Dawn of a New Age, available for both D&D 5e or Pathfinder Classic. And this week, if you look over my shoulder, I'm joined again by my co-host, who everyone seemed to like seeing last time, so he's back again, at least for a little while. We'll see if he stays till the end. And this week, I wanted to talk about sort of a tiny corner of the setting I haven't really addressed yet. There isn't a full splat book on it, it's not a major rules decision yet, but it's something that if people wanted to know more about it, I could go more in depth and maybe expand on it a bit. So we'll see what everybody says at the end of this video. But in case you came here and didn't read the title somehow, I wanted to talk about what I did differently with dragons in this setting. Because they're such a cornerstone of fantasy as a genre, and particularly fantasy RPGs, that I wanted to do something different with them. But like a lot of things with Sundara, I found that the best way to make them different was actually to take them back to basics. And what I mean for that is that in Sundara, as you'll see in the little sidebar for those of you who actually got a copy of Horde Reach, City of Worms, is that dragons in Sundara are only chromatic, at least as of this particular time. That's one of those 5 types is all you find. And the reason for that is, if you watched earlier videos or read some of the other books in the setting, there's no alignment in Sundara. So it felt like the whole reason to have chromatics and metallics, that good versus evil clash that we're so used to going all the way back to Bahamut and Tiamat, just felt pointless. There was no reason to have 2 of one kind, because you could have a red dragon, and it can be whatever it wants. It could be helpful, it could be harmful, it could be selfish, it could be aligned with greater goods, it could become a communist, who knows? It's entirely up to whatever it wants to do. And so I thought that was a lot more freeing than making a whole new type of dragon. And my brain just started really going with it. And if anyone picks up that book, there's profiles of the 5 founders of the city, each of which is one of the different types of dragons. And you see some that are cunning, you see some that are frivolous, you see some that are brutish, and you see some that are scholarly. They're self-interested sometimes, and they're community-interested other times. They're more responsive to the world in which they live rather than they are trying to fulfill some sort of character archetype. And I found that was a really interesting thing to do with dragons, especially because when dungeon masters try to do that a lot of the time, they get pushback from people because they're more concerned with, well, isn't X creature supposed to be evil? Why are they doing this good thing? And I thought that was very interesting and gave both players and the people running the game a lot more options in terms of what they choose to do with these creatures, whether they're important antagonists or just sort of in the background and part of the story. And that might have been enough just to keep them interesting as it was, but I wanted to do more than that. So I did make one additional thing to sort of give dragons a greater impact than they had and make them more than just a dangerous creature that you might have to deal with at mid to high levels. And I created something that I call the Worm Marked, or the Mark of the Worm, depending on how it's being referred to. And if you're reading it in like a scholarly journal in the setting, or if you're just referring to it in context as an adventurer. And the idea of the Worm Mark is that dragons are such powerful creatures, and they are so aligned with their own element, that their presence alters reality if it's in one place long enough. And so you can usually find a dragon's territory not just by the marks they physically leave behind, but by the mark of their presence. A good example is if there's, say, a northern forest full of evergreens, and a white dragon makes a home there. A smaller dragon, a younger dragon, you'll notice it's there, but not hugely. Whereas if that dragon has been there for many, many, many years, or if it's a particularly powerful dragon, then you'll start to notice there's this aura of all the territory that it claims. Its lair just begins to drip with cold. There's, snowstorms you can't explain. There's icicles growing year-round. It makes it known to everyone who comes by, this is where a dragon lives. And that implies both physically in the area that it's in, but also it'll change things in its presence long enough. So if you had completely normal mundane gear that was left by an adventurer who tried to be a dragon slayer and failed, over the years, it'll just steep in that dragon's essence and become a powerful magical item. Which is why a lot of the times, if you actually manage to slay a dragon, there's all kinds of weird stuff left in their hoard just because it's been sitting there, just drinking in that essence. Or, if one happens to earn the favor of a dragon, or maybe if they have a bloodline tied to a dragon if you're a sorcerer, or some other variety of caster tied to dragons, then the worm mark will show up kind of like a mark of fealty. The dragon will accept your pledge and give you these powers kind of tied to it to act in its name. Not unlike you'd see with a cleric, but nowhere near as powerful. It's more like a lord and vassal. And if you're a Pathfinder player, there's a whole feat tree set aside for that. If you're a D&D 5e player, there's a background for it in Horde Reach, if that sounds like something you'd like to check out. And I thought that was a really unique way of just taking dragons and making them feel like more than angry animals with a breath weapon, but also less than being all-powerful gods like they're occasionally depicted, where you need an entire party of epic-level adventurers to take them out. And while there's been a little bit of expansion, I suppose, on the idea of what dragons are, what they can be, and some of the things associated with them in Sundara, I've kind of left them on the sidelines for the past year or so after Horde Reach came out, because while I had fun with them, there didn't seem to be a lot of demand for more. Whether it was adventures to try and, hunt them down, or create diplomatic ties with them, or dealing with individuals whose dragon had gone missing, or people who were trying to earn a worm mark from a particular dragon. Those are all things that I thought about doing, but it's going to depend on just what do you guys want to see as readers? What do you want me to see add to the setting? Would you like more adventures? Would you like a splat book that's entirely about dragons? Would you like more class archetypes that are just geared specifically toward draconic stuff? What do you want to see? I am listening to you guys, so whatever you want to see, or if you're just happy that Jaeger's back, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you next time. Until then, happy gaming, everybody.